Welcome to Chatting with Entrepreneurs. Welcome to Chatting with Entrepreneur podcast. I am the host, Carla Holland, the Executive Director of Texas Tech Institute for Small Business. The Institute for Small Business has 4 federal state-funded programs that provide free and low-cost services to small businesses in Northwest Texas. We have our Small Business Development Center, we have our APEC Accelerator Program, and then we have our TMAC, and then we have our Rural Development Opportunity Program. Today we're chatting with Amy and Jimmy Chaney, owners of Hall Heating and Air located in Pampa, Texas. Welcome, Amy and Jimmy, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule and sharing your entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, let's get started by getting acquainted. Tell me a little bit about yourself and about Hall Heating and Air.
Okay, well, about me and Amy have been married for 10 years. I previously had a construction company and a flooring store and some rental houses. And that's kind of what I did whenever me and Amy got married. And it was kind of a mess, to say the least. I got embezzled from and all these crazy things happened. And it was just a struggle. And, I kind of got burned out on it. And then I just randomly bought this little company called Hall Heating and Air from the guy who did the heating and air for my construction company. But I had a son, Jackson, and he was graduating high school, and I was kind of trying to find something for him to do. So I just kind of bought the heating and air company, and here we are today. So long and short of it, he graduated high school and literally started running calls on Monday, and we didn't know what we were doing, to say the least. We had no idea. And we kind of made a mess of it for a little bit. We generated a lot of revenue, and then we realized we had no money whatsoever from the company. Anyway, so at that point, we had to take a really close look at what's going on. And then that's when we got a business consultant. Everything just kind of fell into place, and they really helped us get our numbers in order and learn how to price correctly and just a multitude of things. Amy can probably speak more to that. She deals with it.
Yeah, just, when we were in all the other businesses that he owned, we just didn't really have a great support system. And so the thing that we have found in being in the home services trades is that we have a huge support system, whether that be, Apex or SBDC or any of the programs that you mentioned. We've had a ton of support, and pairing those along with the other guidance that we're receiving, we really realized this is where we want to be. And we put all of our eggs into one basket last April and got rid of everything except for Hall Heating and Air. And it has been really fantastic. I mean,
it's been so good.
It has been fantastic. And I do want to go back and say he bought the business without telling me he bought the business. So that was a fun little tidbit of that. And because that's about how serious we were about the company. We thought it would just be something else that we did and add it to our portfolio. We didn't realize that it would be our passion.
Well, it turns out like COVID hit, and oil prices went below zero. All my construction jobs kind of canceled, and it was like, oh, what are we going to do now? Like, we had no money. So heating and air is essential. And, everybody was kind of freaked out and not wanting air in their house until it got hot, and nobody cared. They're like, get over here and fix the air conditioning. So it's like, okay, so we kind of ran with it and started focusing on it from there. And it's just been literally miraculous what's happened since then.
This sounds like an awesome story and not what I expected at all. How did you finance all of that growth, and how did you finance buying the business from the person?
I don't know how to explain it. We weren't really in the best financial position at the time, but I always had my construction company, and I had all these other little hobby businesses that kind of drained the money, if that makes sense. I had a flooring service.
Okay.
We put thousands of dollars over there because, we weren't focused on one thing. It's like we were like all these irons in the fire, and you have too much going and you just can't make any of it work. And that's where we were. So
yeah.
I was literally killing myself doing construction to pay for all these other businesses. That's how I did it at the time. Terrible model.
And
terrible.
The old saying of you can chase all these rabbits, but we were chasing all these rabbits and catching none. Yeah. So we had to figure out what rabbit was most important to us. And it was always kind of an ebb and flow. And so it's more of a rob Peter to pay Paul situation. So if one business was doing great, then that's the one that funded the other businesses. And then it might flip flop and so on and so forth until we realized this is just not working for us. So everything we did in the beginning was completely financed 100% because we didn't have proper cash flow on any of the businesses.
Well, we weren't charging enough. That's a difference.
Absolutely.
So the more work we did, the more money we lost, and that's just a fact.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that. But anyway, we didn't know what we were doing.
We didn't know what cash flow meant. I don't think we didn't know what that term meant. We would have to Google it.
So you did not claim the home services; it claimed you.
I would say that's exactly right, and it's just felt like home.
And I want to say a lot of entrepreneurs, just because of what we do, and at the Small Business Development Center in Apex, we see over 400 small businesses a year. You're not alone in that.
I know.
And so you mentioned that you use the Small Business Development Services. How did that come about?
Well, I think during COVID, there was a lot of different funding that we were able to
PPP and EIDL.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. And so that's where, more my involvement in doing that kind of came to play, because apparently these things had been out there, especially like the EIDL loans and the different types of small business help that we could get in funding in those areas. So, and even just learning, even some of the webinars and different things that we've been on, or different resources that we've been given from that have been pretty helpful from all the different avenues. But more importantly, like I said, with COVID, a lot of different funding options came to light, which we were able to take advantage of, which did help us kind of get over kind of that little hump. And then, like you said, once we were able to walk away from everything, and then, it really just gave us a foot up and was able to just launch our business to where it's at today.
So when we talk about your business, how many employees do you have currently?
We currently have 13 employees, plus my husband and myself. So there's 15 of us that are under one roof and one space.
So how do you manage? Like, how do you attract your employees? How do you retain them? And because you're a service business, they're not performing their services in your presence. So how do you track their time? So just kind of share with me, how do you manage the 13 employees that you have?
So it really became a company culture thing. And that was a new concept for us as well. Because previously in construction, the turnover rate was so high. So it got to a point to where he didn't even know the names of anybody that worked for him in the fields, because
they were over there.
And that's really how it was. And so there was no just connection there. It was more of, we were the employers, they were the employees. You clock in, you clock out, and we send you a paycheck. And that was it was very transactional.
Mm-hmm.
With the heating and air, it became very apparent that because we need someone with a specific skill set when it comes to some technical ability, that we needed them worse than they needed us. That we needed them to work for us more than they needed a job with us, which was different. And we had to really change our mindset on that. And so creating a company culture where it became more like a family. So our son that graduated from high school came to work for us. We've had several others that have graduated from high school that have come and worked for us. We have 2 of our sons currently still working for us, but they've all kind of been there. So it was a family thing for us, but we wanted it to be a family thing for everyone. So that is, our family is a big bond, and our work family it's all the same to us. And so creating that company culture where people realize that this isn't just a place to work, this is a place where we care about what your goals are, we care about what your personal life, what's going on in your personal life. So once we built that foundation, it really helped us to be able to retain employees, and the employee retention was a big deal for us. And then training. I don't know if you want to speak to training.
So in my construction company, I came from the mindset, we don't have time to train, like go make money, go to work. And somehow in the midst of this heating and air company, we, through our business consultants, they really harped on training. And I think we probably do a little too much now. We spend so much on training, it is insanity. And you know what? It's been such a mindset shift that you can't afford not to train. We're very proud of our Google reviews. If you ever have time to just read them, I would love for you to, because people literally go, paragraphs about how wonderful our crews are. And it's just like that right there is like, it makes me have tears, because that's what we're going for. We want people to have a connection, and like, it's just a lot. It's a lot to be proud of.
And that is so great to hear. I'll never forget, I did a training with a group of CEOs, and they spent all their time complaining about their employees. Oh, they don't get here on time. They want to leave early. They're this, they're that. And when they finished, I said, that's your fault.
Yeah.
Looked at me and they were like, what? I was like, it's your fault, because you have to train your employees. You have to coach them. It's awesome to hear about your culture, but how do you market? How do you get new clients?
Marketing is a beast in and of its own. So it's not anything, I don't think, with any of the other businesses, it was never in the forefront of our mind. So marketing had to become a big focus, because we're not the only heating and air conditioning company in the Texas Panhandle, and we service a wide range. And especially a lot of the rural communities, a lot of those small towns that don't realize that, hey, we're here and we'll drive to you where you're at. And that might be an hour, but we're going to service you. So when you live in a small town, who do you know to call? Because you call somebody's neighbor that knows a guy that knows how to maybe make your AC work again. And that's how we grew up. I grew up in a very small town, a rural town about an hour and a half from here, 700 people. He grew up in a small town as well. And so we really had to stop and get in that mindset of, how do we reach these individuals? And so, really digital media has been the thing that we've had to learn the most, because everything that we do is right here in our hand. And so when you don't know who to call, what's the first thing you do? You Google it. And
then
so
you read the reviews.
yes.
Yes.
And so having that mindset and saying, okay, so if they're going to Google us, how are they going to find us? And really, that digital platform, the digital marketing world, has been the thing that's been really, really big for us. And it's costly, but it's the way you get there. It's the way you service those people. And then, like he said, with the Google reviews, making sure that people know, because I can tell you that my guys are awesome, but I mean, I'm the owner. Of course, I'm going to say my guys are awesome, but when my customers can tell you out of their own mouths, what their experience was like, then that's a trust factor that starts long before we get into the home.
We've even been accused a few times that our Google reviews were fake.
Yeah, we had a customer one time say, are you sure you didn't pay somebody to write these? Because they're so good. And I'm like, no, we did not pay anybody to write a single one of those. I'll give you phone numbers if you need references.
I think Google reviews is the biggest part of the marketing, because that gets you organic. And like, whenever somebody calls and they've read your reviews, and maybe someone mentioned they're not the cheapest and blah, that's your ideal customer right there. They want quality. They want a good experience. They're not looking for the cheapest. They just want to be fair, treated fairly, and taken good care of. And those are like gold.
I agree. I mean, we travel quite a bit, and before I go to a hotel, I need to read the review. How recent is it?
Yes.
And I even read the ones that give them bad reviews.
Yes.
Because things happen.
Yes.
But how you address it. So even though I read all the good reviews that talk about them, if there's a review that's 1 star or don't go there, I read that one.
From the business owner standpoint, is how do you respond to that? And some of them, like you said, things happen. I mean, we are not perfect by any means, and we've learned a lot over the years.
And I want to say your online presence is beautiful. I looked at your website. It was easy to navigate. Why don't you tell our listeners your website address and a little bit more about the services you offer? I don't want to take for granted that we all know what, heating and air is.
So you can find us at callhalls.com or hallheatingandair.net, but Call Halls is a lot easier to remember. And we have service for your AC, your furnaces. We also do new installs. So if you're maybe at the end of your life expectancy of your unit, or maybe you're like every other American in the nation right now that got their electric bill this last month and went, Oh my goodness gracious. Maybe your AC is still working or your furnace is still working, but maybe it's not working efficiently. Then we go over all of those options with our customers to allow them to know what an energy efficient unit could help them with in their home and how that can affect their
Insulation.
their electric bills. We do offer insulation, as well as maintenances. So that's a list of our services.
And tell me your area. I mentioned that you're in Pampa, Texas, and you said you would drive an hour. Kind of help me understand how far out. So will you come to Lubbock? Will you go to San Angelo? Like, help me understand your
Not
geographical
that
area.
far.
No, so our service radius is about 75 miles. So we don't quite reach to Lubbock or any of that area, but there again, like I said, so in the Texas Panhandle, Pampa is considered to be the second largest city in the Texas Panhandle at 17,000 population. Amarillo at 200 something. But there's a ton of little bitty towns all in between that, and so that's where those are our people. Like I said, growing up in a rural small town, we really want to reach those small towns as well. And so we travel, and that's a cost that's built into what we do. We don't charge a travel charge to our customers. If you live an hour away or if you live 10 minutes away, we don't charge you that additional because we've based our pricing on the ability to be able to reach those people because they need service just the same as the person that's down the street from us. So we cover tons of very small rural areas, and we have great success in those areas too. We're able to really get involved in local communities. We just recently were able to donate some bicycles to Claude ISD, which is a very small town, and
That's
give away
awesome.
and help with some bicycles for them for an incentive program that they were doing. And those are the fun things that we get to do. Those are the parts when we get to be real community oriented, especially in these small towns, because we get it. We know what it's like growing up small towns. So it's a big deal for us, and we'd love to give back and be involved in those communities.
For sure.
So what would be one thing you wish someone had told you prior to starting your first business?
I wish someone would have really taken the time to teach me the importance of knowing your numbers and not just going out there and making it. Because I did that for years. I made a lot of money, but it's like I killed myself doing it. I wasn't necessarily priced right. So I'm doing twice as much work to make the amount of money I should have with one and, one job. I'm having to do two and so on. But I didn't really have a good grasp on my numbers. And to me, I think that is absolutely crucial, crucial, crucial. And just to add to that, I would always recommend people to reach out to SBDC. Just get all the help that you can, whether you have to pay for it or whether there's tons of free help. And I think so many people are just afraid to ask and they don't want to take the time.
Yeah, not knowing who your resources are and who your support team can be is that's detrimental. So ask questions, attend the luncheons, attend the webinars, do the things so you can make those connections and start to say, oh, hey, we need some assistance in this specific area. Here's a program that can help us because I learned about it at a luncheon or whatever.
Well, just a good example, the other day, they had an insurance agent speak at the chamber luncheon, and we learned a couple of little deficits that we have in our insurance that we didn't know about. And so, that could be invaluable. It's just little things. Sometimes you go and you get one little thing, but one little thing's a lot. I mean, you don't ever get everything at once.
And I think you were at a luncheon and you met, I think it was either Emma at
Oh, yeah.
Apex Accelerate. Tell me how that was helpful. And I think you did a little bit of government contracting.
Yes. As far as with Emma, this started several years ago on my construction company. I know a guy that works for the city of Pampa, and he kind of wanted me to get on buy a board or something, a co-op, so that they didn't have to get three bids, because in a rural area, it is really hard for them to get three bids on anything. I mean, no one wants to drive to get a free estimate. I mean, eventually, once you have somebody do that a few times, they're not coming back, So anyway, it's always been a struggle. Well, I explored, getting into a government contract then, and it was just too overwhelming. I didn't have the time, I was the business anyhow. So a few years passed, and then I kind of just got a whim that I wanted to start investigating that again. So I started going to the little luncheons, got involved with Emma, and then we went to a meet the buyer, and it just happened that they Region 16 opened up this contract out of the blue, which I didn't even know about, wasn't supposed to happen for another year. So me and Amy, we got on it with Emma and David.
and oh gosh, there was a whole team.
There's
They all
Mark
helped
and
us.
Rich. Mark and
Yeah.
Rich.
Yes, there you go.
So they helped us. They helped us.
Thank you.
They helped us put all this together, and it took a lot of time because we didn't have any of the stuff we needed. It took copious amounts of time. It was nuts.
It took me several weeks of just gathering, and they answered a million questions, and it would be 4 a.m. and I'm sending an email, and one of the guys would be like, "Go to sleep," and I'm like, "I did, but we're awake again because I can't sleep because I need to get this done. I'm stressed about this." And so they were so helpful, and to know that all of those resources were at our fingertips, free of charge.
Yeah.
And they are brilliant. They're brilliant. They know what they're doing, and they were so helpful.
I want to add to that. So recently, a little contract came out at our school for the USDA for something to do with their food, and it was probably about a fourth of what the buy board or the text buy contract was. But we had everything together. Amy got it all together in just a couple of hours. So once you have all that together, it's pretty easy. And once you learn the language and know. But it's overwhelming at first.
Thanks to the team, because without their help, and I'm like, I don't understand what this means. I don't have a college education. What does this mean? What do we need here? How do you do this? And once they taught me how to do what I needed, and we got it all together, it came very quickly for the next one. And I know, and we were awarded that contract, and that was a huge deal for us. It was a huge deal for the team. It was a great feeling, and now here we are, being able to duplicate that process. So like I said, knowing who your resources are is the biggest deal.
And that's what I hear from what you're saying. You all have such a great story that I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs will relate to, but it just takes time, but it's worth it, right?
It is worth it.
I really appreciate you all's time. I appreciate all the advice or tips that you mentioned. I love the idea of exactly what you're saying. You want to improve for your employees, for your community, for yourself. Absolutely. I think that's awesome. One of the things that really stood out that you talked about was building that culture. Because like you said, yes, I can be an expert in repairing HVACs, but there's so much more to a business than just being that technician. And so as I end our podcast, I normally do a book recommendation. And so the book that I want to recommend is called Start with the Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action. And it's by Simon, I'm going to pronounce his name, Sinek, S-I-N-E-K, that really talks about there's a shift from being an employee to being a business owner. There's so much more that goes into that. All right, Jimmy and Amy, thank you so much for your time, and I will constantly pray for the success of your business, and we look forward to maybe hearing from you again and seeing how you have grown since the last time we talked.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.